topic that I want to briefly discuss tonight, or at least in the preamble, is one that is well known to all of us, is the institution of Istakhara. There are very few people who have not had some sort of Istakhara done in their lifetime. And certainly it's a very new concept. What I want to do today is to try to define it as taught by the Prophet ﷺ and is explained by Ahlul Bayt ﷺ. The first thing to know about Istakhara is that it is something, a practice that is very, very highly recommended in the sense that there are so many traditions from the Imams that talk about it, that it is hard to deny that it is a valid institution and that there is something very important about it. Where there is some confusion perhaps in some minds is what exactly Istakhara constitutes. For example, when you look at a hadith from, say, Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, where he says that I don't like my Shia to make any move, any important step to take in their lives without doing Istakhara. So that makes us think about the hundreds of things we do daily, which are important, where we don't do Istakhara in the sense that we understand it. So it's important for us to try to understand what is being encouraged here. The ulama are quite clear that in the teachings of the Shia, in the teachings of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, the word Istakhara has a technical meaning and then it has an applied meaning, which we sort of got used to. In its technical meaning, Istikhara means to seek khair. You know that any Arabic word that begins alif, sin and tay usually means to seek. Like istighfar, to seek forgiveness, ghufran. Istikhraj, to seek to remove something from the ground, so on. Istikhara means to seek khair. And that is indeed what Imam is saying, and this is something very, very important. That no step in our lives should be free from remembrance of Allah and seeking khair from Him. So when you leave your house in the morning, maybe to go to work, to drop the kids to school, or whatever it is you're doing, to do some shopping, you have to have, according to the teaching of Ahlul Bayt, that idea in your mind that, Ya Allah, today I seek khair from you. Whatever is to happen today, let there be goodness for me. And this is the meaning of Istikhara in the first instance. What then is the role of the Istikhara that we are so used to? Which is, when we're confused, we seek a scholar to explain to us or to tell us what the Quran says about our situation. Well, that Istikhara is also Istikhara, but it is a minor Istikhara. It is not the one that is being referred to in the hadith at all. However, it is a valid practice and needs to be understood what its place is. First and foremost, we have clear guidelines from hadiths, many hadiths, from Nahju Balagha onwards, about what to do when we are confused. Man is always, in a situation where decisions have to be made. Sometimes the decisions are quite clear-cut and quite simple, other times less so. There are many factors and we get confused what to do. In those cases, to resolve these doubts, there is a sequence that has been told by the Imam, which is very clear and we see it in many, many hadiths. So, in Nahjul Balagha, Imam alayhi salam says that when you encounter a situation in which there are two possibilities and you are not sure what to do, then you must seek counsel, mashwara, from somebody who is more experienced in that particular field than you. So for instance, you want to do a course at uni, but you're not sure which way to go. You could do one or the other, and you really are confused. At that time, if you follow the instructions by Imam alayhi salam, he's saying, talk to people. So you want to do, I don't know, medicine, for example, but you could become a doctor or a dentist. And you're really not sure which way to go. Well, Imam is saying talk to both a doctor and a dentist. I'm sort of saying paraphrasing, how it would apply. If you want to buy a house, but we're not sure of the area, well, speak to people who live in the area. Talk to people and see what is it about Milton Keynes that's better than, for example, Birmingham or London or whatever, like this. And you will get some idea. And once you have that idea, you can then probably resolve it down. The second thing, or the third thing rather, so the first course of action, whenever we have a decision to make, or indeed when we take a step, is to seek khair from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ya Allah, I'm taking this step, I seek from you goodness and barakah and good fortune and happiness from this particular action, inshallah. Subsequently, we reach a crossroads, we're not sure which way to go, we seek advice. Now, Imam alayhi salam was asked once, this is from Imam Baqir alayhi salam, that I want to do a certain business for which I need to travel outside Medina, and I'm not sure of whether that entails any danger to my life. It will mean going away to a place and meeting with strangers, and I will not have my family and friends to back me up if something starts to go wrong. What do you say? Imam alayhi salam said to him that seek guidance from those who have done this. Seek counsel from other travelers who go abroad for business or whatever. He came back to the Imam and he said, I have sought that guidance, but I am still confused. I cannot make up my mind. Imam alayhi salam said to him that pray 2 rakat salah with a niyyah that, Ya Allah, make in my heart heavier one of the two options. Make in my heart, incline towards one of the two options. And Allah will guide you, inshallah. He came back to the Imam and said, well, I did what you asked, but again, I'm literally at crossroads. This is very, very interesting. That sometimes somebody will say to me, Abbas, will you take out an istakhara? I said to him, okay. So you have made your niyya? Yes. And you are confused? Yes, I'm confused. So I said to him, on the phone it's hard to say, it's hard to know, gauge it, but when they're in front of me, I said to them, no. Really? You sure? Why? Because he already knows what he wants. He already knows. Allah has guided his heart because Allah guides us in many ways. Sometimes what happens is we're not sure, and then we talk to someone, we read something, or we pray to Allah and Allah makes in our hearts a preference for one or the other. That is your istikhara there. Now, when you are disappointed with the result of the istikhara, which is done from a Quran, that means you have already decided what you want. You already knew what you wanted. The second step was not necessary, nor even recommended. Some people say, oh yes, but if the Quran says, it is, no. You are using the Quran for something the Imams have not asked you to use it for. The Imams have already told you how to do it. There isn't anything else, you see, that comes from the Quran, because you have been taught what to do. You want to recite the Quran and recite it and say, Ya Allah, after reciting this Quran, make one of the preferences heavier in my heart, that's something else. But to go to the Quran as a first resort, or to go to tasbih, or warqa, or anything like that, is not the way to go. Right? So he comes back and he says that I cannot decide. So Imam alayhi salam then, from the tone of the hadith, you can see that Imam is disappointed. He says to him, well, in that case, take 2 pieces of paper, and on one you write if'al, on the other one you write la taf'al. Do not do. Put them under your musalla, recite 2 rakat salah. When it is over, pick up one at random and do it. And that is the weakest way of decision making, Imam tells. Now, what we tend to do is we bypass the stages and we go to the last one. Whether we do it with waraqah, which is a piece of paper which we, like Imams taught us, in one hadith, 6 pieces of paper, 3 saying do and 3 saying don't, recite 2 rakat salat and then pick it up, or we go to the tasbih. So on the way to do the Istakhara by tasbih is told by Imam Zaman, Ajallah, hadith as well in different ways. It is even more hadith about that way of taking out Istakhara than Quran. And that is why you will see that ulama, you go to Marja, you go to Mustaq, you go to many ulama, they will not resort to the Quran when you ask them Istakhara. They will pick up a tasbih and do Istakhara straight away. That is because there are many more hadiths about that way of making that decision when all has been exhausted and you are still confused. Imam Zaman said that when you are in that situation, you do it, not ask someone else to do it. You do it, you pick up a tasbih, and first of all you recite salawat 3 times yourself. Then you ask Allah to guide you or to give you the answer. He said, then Imam said, take the tasbih in your hands at any random place and start to count or bring the fingers together by pulling apart 2 beads, Imam says. If when your fingers come together there is 1 bead only left, then proceed with the action. But if there are 2, discard the action, is what Imam says. Right. So either you can do it that way, or you open the Quran yourself after making a dua for Allah to guide you, and you look at the verse, and from the tone of the verse you know whether you should proceed or not, or you ask someone to do it for you. These are ways that are taught. However, it's very, very important that you do not bypass the hierarchy or the sequence in which we have been taught to do Istikhara. Because then you end up painting yourself in a corner, then you begin to get confused sometimes because the result is not what you had decided anyway. Sometimes, I get a phone call from a young student from Madrasa, Abbas, I'm in a big problem. What's your problem? I want to get married. I said, what's the problem? It's a good thing. He said, yes, I like her very much. I said, she likes me very much. Her parents like me. My parents like her. I said, good. Do you want me to recite the nikah? No. The grandmother in Mubasa took our Istakhara. Sukar hoga sankar, Jahannam hi aaya. Jahannam, not just, So now, I said, now what? That's what he does. Then what he says next? What shall we do next? That means I'm now part of the problem. What shall we do next? That means solve it. Well, it's too late now to tell him you should not have. If, for example, somebody sends a proposal to your daughter or to your son, what is the normal, sensible sequence as guided is mashwara? Find out who is this boy? Who is this girl? What are the parents like? What are their habits like? That's what we do. We find out a little bit about the person, we get to know a little bit about the family, and we make an initial decision that, okay, it looks like we can move to stage 2. In the olden days, that was it. There was no stage 2. But nowadays, we can say to them, fine, we think that our preliminary investigation makes us confident that you can meet it out. Good. And then, maybe they can talk about their aspirations. Maybe they can talk about what they want from life. And perhaps, there is some similarity on which they can build. Or they find out that they're not compatible. Subsequent to that, that's it. What is there more than this? Yes, there is dua. You pray, Ya Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, let my daughter and my son make the right decision. The problem is that we have, but sometimes if you say, okay, look, we did the mashwara, couldn't get anything really right or wrong, then they met, we're still totally confused. What should we do? Let's let them meet again with any new questions. You're not going to be able to wrinkle out everything and iron it out and say, okay, now we've got a smooth page, we can move. Because anything happens. Life, marriage begins, as we all know, after you get married, isn't it? Not when everybody suited, booted up and smell really nice and look really good. That's not all like show. Then marry me. So you put yourself, you have everything's okay, now you want some sort of rubber stamp. You want a rubber stamp. It won't happen because the Quran is not meant as a rubber stamp. Yeah. Sorry. Too much. So, what I'm trying to say is that let us understand it very clearly. There is a place for all these things, but they come in sequence. And when they are not used in the correct way, then people begin to become resentful. You know, the young man who says, look, I don't understand. I don't understand how I belong in Jahannam like this. Why? I say, it's not about you. It's not that you belong in Jahannam. But why did Jahannamaya come? Well, we don't know why Jahannamaya came. The one thing is that the Istakhara, when you resort to the Quran, is something that talks about dunya and akhirah. It doesn't just tell you that you will live for 20 years happily. It talks about the whole thing. And sometimes, as you well know, people are miserable at portions of their marriage. But that is somehow necessary for them to achieve a better result, a Jannah at the end of it. Or the other way around. That some people are extremely blissful in their marriage, but the spouse, one or the other, is leading them surely to hell. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about in the Quran, when he talks about not getting married to non-believers. He says that a believing woman is much better for you than a non-believing woman, although she may amaze you. لو أعجبتك. Or a believing man is much better for you to marry than a non-believer, no matter how much he amazes you. And then Allah gives a reason. He says, because he or she calls you to fire, but Allah calls you to mercy. There's a difference. So sometimes we say, oh, I'm very blissfully happy with this person, but it needs. So with that preamble, I think, I hope I've been able to set the scene, and I leave it to you for any questions, or I don't know how this interaction works, so please recite the salawat.
Basically, we open the questions to the floor, and I will take that.
Or comment, feel free to comment this question.
Assalamu alaikum.
Salam.
Yeah. I'm a bit curious to know about, suppose if you do istikhara, then whatever the result is, maybe, okay, let's say the result is negative. So for how long again you can wait and do the istikhara again?
So usually you've made up your mind by then. Now, this istikhara has ruined your plans, which you had already made. And that's what I'm trying to say, that we shouldn't do that. We should not put ourselves ever in that situation. However, there's a hadith from Imam Sadiq alayhi salam who says that once you have taken an istikhara, do not be disappointed with the result. Rather, accept it and act on it, because your life is in the hands of your well-wisher, not your enemy. Right? So sometimes we leave it to God, and God, said, like, so we should not be disappointed, rather we should say fine and move on. So what I'm trying to say is, when you are truly confused, ask yourself one final question before you pick up the phone for Maulana, or you open the Quran for yourself, and that is there, if this comes yes, have I got a problem? Or if this comes no, have I got a problem? If you have literally no problem with either one, it means you are at the stage where you are totally confused and you have no preference. But if you say, no, I hope these comes are good, well then you are already at a decision-making point. Provided you are making your decision sensibly. Now, how long before you take action? So, we come back to this young man, and several lines spoke of. So Abbas said, what shall we do next? There are some things that have been recommended in hadith and also advice of ulama. The first thing is that if there is anything that is pointing towards, or you suspect, or you feel threatened by possible bala in your life. So, you feel a threat, or you feel anxiety, or indeed in this case the Jahannam Niyayat is started. We are always told that take recourse in sadaqah. A sadaqah is for daf'ul bala, and the Prophet spoke very, very highly, so highly, he repeated himself 3 times. As-sadaqatu shay'un ajeeb, shay'un ajeeb, shay'un ajeeb. If you only knew how wondrous sadaqah is in protecting you from bala. So you would take out the sadaqah. And then it is possible to do the istikhara again. Alternatively, something radical or significant should change in the circumstances of your circumstances, their circumstances. The whole picture changes. For instance, before you did the istikhara, you were unwell. Now that you have done the istikhara, your health has improved. So again, you are in a different situation. Possibly, you can take out istikhara again. Or you were living in a different land and you now move to a different land and you take out that istikhara, the same one, again. For example, I want to buy a house. Istikhara came wrong, don't buy a house. Fine. I moved from London to Birmingham, still renting. I made a decision now in Birmingham, I want to buy a house. That is accepted because there is a big shift. But to say, when I was inexperienced in these matters, there was a chap who would phone me, and if I said to him, the istikhara is good, he would say, thank you. If I said it was bad, he would say, hold the line. And after 10 seconds, he would say to me, do it again. If it was bad, he would say, hold the line. After 10 seconds, he would say, do it again. And I thought this was very odd. Then I met him once. I said, do it again. What do you do? He said, well, I made a decision that, okay, if I was to do this act in the morning, then it came back. Okay, if I was to do it in the night, then I said, don't call me again. Really don't call me again, because this doesn't make sense to me. You could do this and say, okay, fine. If I sent a mango in the morning, then, okay, then I sent the morning in the evening, then. And then you can go through the whole 24-hour clock till you get it. No, it's not the way. So, if we understand it, but this is the answer to your question. If something significant alters, you make it.
Any questions, ladies? Comments or feedback?
Yes. Response to my comment. I can hear you and repeat the question. You understand the question? So 2 people are making a decision here. Maybe it's husband and wife, father and son, or something like this, and they are coming to different decisions. That's a case in point. Like for example, many cases. Okay, marriage is one, so mom thinks one thing, dad thinks one thing, or university courses are one thing, dad thinks one thing, son thinks one thing, and then there is a difference in opinion. And so on. Again, the same rule is applied. So, a decision has to be made and there is confusion. So it starts off with the same thing, that each one tries to resolve the doubt of the other or tries to make their case in front of the other. What Islam doesn't want is a situation where very arbitrary methods are used to make decisions. Okay. That's not the way, because that is not rational. And that is smacks of something called fa'al, which Imam Sadiq was very much against, what he called overreach or fa'al, they call it, where you literally open a page and say, that's it. That's everything wrong. Imam said, I would not like for my Shias to make decisions like this, for crossing conscience and so on. So yes, it has its place, but go through the same procedure then too. And then if there is, you reach a point where you cannot ignore it, then you go and ask, or you can open the Quran to something.
Any more from the ladies? Any gents?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
So,
I was curious what you said about the first 10 Istakhara, one that's more important, every day,
Yes.
for benefits for you.
Yes.
How would you go about doing that on a daily basis?
Yes.
Is there a dua that you would do, or as you leave the house?
Yeah, that's the thing. That is the real recommendation, is how should one do it. It doesn't say, there is nothing to recite, it's an attitude. What, in life, what we do is we always rely on support structures so that things go well. From the simplest of support structures to much more complex ones. And as those are in place in our lives, we feel confident. And when they are missing, we feel a sense of loss. For example, we all have a doctor, we all have a plumber. Plumbers are very important to have, right? And we have a lawyer, and we have a mother and a father or an older brother, a family. We need these people. And while they're there, we feel, okay, fine, if I've got this problem, this particular support structure, I will go. However, and in the end, we rely on ourselves. I've always got me, right? I've got my strength, I've got my knowledge, I've got my wealth, I've got my whatever, and I will be all right. What Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying is that discard all those as your first choice and place me as your main support in everything. For several reasons. One, the supports you choose other than me may have your interest at heart, but they may not have the ability to help. There's one thing loving someone, but that doesn't mean they can help you. Mothers would do anything for their children, but sometimes they don't have the knowledge. They don't have the ability. They want to desperately help this sick child. They don't know how. A doctor doesn't know how. He'll hold up his hand and says, this thing has no cure now. Or, for example, they may have the power, but they don't have the luck. They don't care. Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala both loves and has the power. So Allah says, why do you use other support structures than me? Istakhara is about this. It's about acknowledging right from as the day starts that, Ya Allah, I place my affair in your hands. It's a dua from the morning duas, taught by the Prophet. And you'll see both Al-Sunnah and Tashayyu recited because this one comes from the Prophet. The line is, Inni ufawwidhu amri ilayk. Or ufawwidhu amri ilallah, inna Allah basirun bil ibad. Ufawwidhu amri means I delegate my affairs to you. So that is a statement of intent. And if you do that and say, Ya Allah, you know what? You are custodian of the results of my efforts. And whatever you destine for me today, let it be goodness. Right? If that is your attitude in everything, whatever you start, including starting your day, that is istikhara. For which Imam said, I don't like my shears to make important steps without me.
Yeah, going back to your example about the for example, the grandmother in your masa did istikhara. Obviously, the grandmother seems like she did istikhara without the permission of the girl. Does that mean we can discard her istikhara?
Well, see, the point is that once you spook people, okay, I mean, there is no Kisrani here. Right? And now everybody is superstitious antenna are on alert and is saying, ignore the Jahannamiyat. It's already ruined everything, right? Because now nobody can look past it. Somebody has taken an istikhara and they happen to be the mother of the sasu or the mother of the sasra, one of them, but they're an important person. And they phone you to say, look, you know what? It was great telling us about this person, whoever. I don't even know them, but this marriage got Jahannamiyat like this. It cannot be ignored. Once it's there, it has to be dealt with. It can be dealt with by saying, okay, Nanima, this is okay, we'll be fine. Whatever, but it has to be dealt with. If you ignore it, then people get very nervous.
This may sound very blunt here, but if you discard the people and between you and your Lord yourself, can you ignore it?
You can ignore things when things are only to do with you. When you are not dealing with a relationship that involves, another woman or a man plus their family, you say, look, you know what, let's ignore everything. You can make a decision when it's just for yourself and you think ultimately this is not really going to impact too much on anybody else. But even then, once the istikhara is there, in the sense the ayah is is another bar, another chapter, that if you are told the istikhara is good, can you ignore it, and if you ignore it, is it enough? Or if you are told proceed, and then you ignore it as well, saying, look, it's good anyway, right? So I don't have to do it. If it was bad, then I would obey it. If it's good, then I don't know it both ways. It's a move you need to make now. Whether good or bad, you have been instructed which way to go. If you don't want to do it, you would have to take up a sadaqah. Then do the ulama say. Take up a sadaqah. And then decide what you want to do. Starting from scratch again. Mashwara, then thinking about it, and if you're in doubt again, reciting salah. For most people, that second stage is enough. If you sought advice, now you recite namaz, and you will see that Allah normally, if you ask Him sincerely to guide you, guides you. You feel that, I think I know which way I want to go. But then we don't need to proceed to a third stage necessarily. You cannot ignore. I remember my father, Allah raised the station, once said a man came to me in the World Federation offices and Mullah said, can you do the istikhara? He said, I didn't know. The supporters are very clever. He said, I read istikhara. So he said, well, what is it, Mullah? He said, my father said, it's very good. He says, the istikhara was to take a loan from WF. £5,000. So I now, it would be nice if you loan me that. My father said that it was good for you to ask, not good for me to give. But you can, so you should discuss it. But otherwise, in the main, you reach that stage, you don't take that step unless you truly believe it doesn't matter what the answer comes. You just need to be guided, that's all. Just like Maramzan. Kids tell me, I don't care if it's 30 or 20, just tell me what it is. I just need the answer. Some people say, you know what, I don't mind. Allah says I'll do it, I'll do it. Says, don't do it, I won't do it. But right now I'm totally confused. If that is where you are, then open the Quran by all means, or take the tasbih. But if you are seeking some sort of, I've already decided, and I think it's good, it would be nice to have God rubber stamp on it. Things that's not what it's meant for, and that's when things get sometimes disappointing and people are a bit frustrated for 2 minutes.
A couple more questions if there are any.
So you've done an istikhara, you got the answer. Before you put that thing into motion, plans change or things change. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You don't have to then do it because you may be physically unable to do it. So you take out an istikhara to travel, or to go for Hajj this year. Right? Comes out good, you do it. Before the Hajj season, somebody very close to you who you look after gets very ill. So you have to look after them, which is a duty. So things change. That's fine. No, not to my knowledge. There wouldn't be any sadaqah. You see, where there is a bit of the hadith is about defiance. So for example, you have reached a point you have been guided, now you still don't want to do. In that case, Imam says that, look, be satisfied with the answer. In fact, the hadith is like this. Imam says that a mu'min should never be upset with whatever is the result of the sadaqah, of the istikhara, because his life is in the hands of his well-wisher, not his enemy.
Instead of istakhara, suppose if you stick to tawakkul on Allah.
Instead of istikhara, you stick to tawakkul on Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that فَمَنْ يَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ فَهُوَ حَسْبُهُ. If you decide to do tawakkul on me, I will suffice to you. I will be enough. You won't need anything else. Tawakkul means total reliance. See, sometimes a person reaches a place where he says, I don't have a problem on tawakkul. I just don't know which way to go. There are two equally valid options in front of me. Both of them are halal. And I need to do one. I really don't know which one. I really don't know, and I wouldn't mind either answer. At that time, tawakkul is there anyway, but there is a bit of confusion on which way to go. So that will be somewhere where you would say, okay, fine. Should I make this action? You are told if there are two actions and there is no, this is the hadith, that you don't know which one to do, choose the one that has more thawab, more khayr. Right? It's based on a very good story in Bihar al-Anwar where a man at the time of Prophet, this is a story narrated by Imam Sadiq, his people. He said there was a man at the time of the prophets of Banu Israel who saw in a dream that an angel or a voice is telling him, because of your good action, Allah wishes to reward you. He will divide your life that you have got left into two. One part will be full of blessing and wealth, and the other part will be full of trials and poverty. Which do you want first? Imam, this man was smart. He went and asked his wife. Yes. He said, this is what I have seen, and you will be part of this. What do you suggest? You know what she told him? Because he said, look, if we get the good things now, then when we are old, we'll be different. If we take the difficulties now, we're young and strong, then in our old age, we will be comfortable. She said to him, to have wealth and to have health and to have blessings is khayr. Always give preference to the khayr. Take it. He said, he did it. At the end of that time, the angel came and said to him, because Allah gave you khayr, but you showed him shukr. By utilizing those gifts in His way, Allah gives you the rest of your life in khayr. That is why He told them, there are two paths. Choose that which is khayr. Should I go to Hajj this year or next year? I have money, but I've done my wajibah. Which one should I do? I'm confused. Choose the khayr. Khayr is to go to Hajj, not to stay back like this. If all else is equal and you really think which one, choose the khayr.
One question here.
Salam sheikh. I might have misunderstood, but did you say that if we have it's not good to take out istakhara if you want to reaffirm your decision? So say if I have a decision and I know what I want to do, so in that case, would you not take out istakhara just to reaffirm the decision? Are you not going to do that?
See, the question is, you made a decision. Now we take out this istikhara. If it comes that you have made the wrong decision, what will your attitude be?
For example, say if I want to buy a house, and so I say I'm going to buy a house, I haven't bought it yet, but just for my own comfort, I say, let's take istakhara out. Just if it's positive, then good. If it's not, then I won't buy it. But I'm inclining towards buying the house.
Yeah. You see, this is what I think we need to understand this, that as we have been taught, we have made a meaning for istikhara which is only a partial meaning, right? Where we have ignored the lion's shares of the meaning, which is to seek best from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, does not involve necessarily opening the Quran. And just because you didn't open the Quran before you made momentous decisions in your life, like marriage or buying property or a house or whatever other momentous, it didn't mean you didn't do istikhara. You did istikhara, provided what you did was sought Allah's khair. That, Ya Allah, I am about to do this. Okay? I have done my due diligence, I am now about to do this. I seek khair from you. You have done istikhara. And you should feel comfortable to move now.
Just on the fact that your made decision should be good enough.
People say, I want to do istikhara so that I can be a little bit reassured. What I'm saying is you have done istikhara already by seeking, before you make a move, seeking His blessing and asking for the best from Him. You have done istikhara. You do not have to open the Quran now unless you are at a crossroads which now is only a matter of detail. not a matter of, whether you will proceed with the action at all or not. So it's just there are two ways,
So I will conclude there.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
اللهم صل على
اللهم وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما.
اللهم صل على محمد وآله. أحسنت.